What I'm gonna do in this video is show you how to edit the item order in Square Online in the Shop All page. And it's very simple. Once we're in Square Online, which I'm already over here in Square Online, then we just go into the website, edit site, and then this site only has one page. It just has the Shop All page. If you do have more pages at some point, then you just go over to under category pages, you could just go to Shop All, and then you'll click on the item list here to edit it, and then you'll click this arrange and add items, and then I already have it set to custom. It's just not in the order that we want, but we can set it by popularity, by the newest items, by price, by alphabetical, or this custom option, which most people probably want this custom option. So then what we do is very simple. We just move stuff around. We just drag it around. That's what this symbol always means in Square Online, is we can move it. Now, sometimes it'll be a little finicky like it's being right now, and it wants me to get it right there, but we can always just grab a different one and move it around, and there's options there, but we'll put all these 2024 ones up here, 2024, and I have several others, but we don't have to do all of them. But this allows us to reorder them. Now, in this case, we could actually do alphabetical A to Z, or we might need to do it backwards actually, Z to A, because it has those numbers, so it'll show the highest numbers up top, and then it's showing our newer stuff because these items are by year, or we can do that custom setup. Now I'm just going to leave it alphabetical Z to A because that's pretty close to what we want, but we can do the custom and we can change it to be exactly what we want. And then once we're done here, we just click publish, wait for this little loading thing to finish, and then voila, we have that published, and we have our custom item set up, and we can actually go look at it. We can go to wheelhouse.shop, yeah, wheelhousecards.shop, and we'll take a look and see that 2024 is all at the top now, exactly as displayed in the editor. So I hope this helps, and let me know if you have any questions.